a big part of our value is like we're constantly improving, we're constantly updating, and we're constantly like leveling up internally and externally.
Welcome to Behind the Franchise, the podcast that brings you behind the scenes with the most successful franchise marketers. I'm your host, Paul Ehlinger. On each episode, we'll be diving deep with the people who have cracked the code on franchise growth so you can learn their secrets to building a standout brand. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Behind the Franchise. I'm your host, Paul Ehlinger, founder and CEO here at Flamel AI. We're super lucky. We've got our second Canadian guest on the show today. We were discussing the similarities and differences between Canadian and American Thanksgiving before going live here. But we've got Michael Sutton with us. Michael, if you want to go ahead and give us just a quick brief on who you are, what you do, and then we'll kind of jump into it. I hope we got a good conversation ahead of us.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me on the show. Really excited. So I'm Michael Sutton, founder and president of Grill Hero. We're a professional barbecue cleaning franchise. Currently, we have 7 franchisees across Canada, and we are working on expanding across the U.S. as well. We actually just got registered down in the U.S., so we're working on expansion all across North America, and we have a very unique franchise opportunity with our barbecue cleaning repairs franchise. We're kind of one of a kind in the space, and we're really looking to build a brand across North America for our services.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was super excited about this. Like I told you, I'm from Kansas City, big barbecue hub. Never seen anything like this. Have personally cleaned several grills out, and it's not a fun task. So the problem you're solving is real. Maybe tell me, origin story, right? Were you barbecuing one day and just looking at the grill thinking, oh my God, this is going to suck? Or, how'd you get into this?
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, it started off with just like a student summer job. So was out off in college, and me and a buddy of mine were just trying to figure out like something we could do in the summer. We didn't want to go back to our like traditional kind of like 9 to 5 co-op type positions, internships. And we wanted to do something on our own. We wanted to do something outside with our hands, like start building a small business. And it's funny enough, my parents were actually trying to find someone to come out and clean our grill, and it was like impossible. They couldn't find anyone who would come to do it. They were like, on Kijiji, they were like looking everywhere that they could. They eventually found someone, and he came out, did a horrible job, charged a ton of money. And we just kind of saw the opportunity. And so on day one, we just went out and started selling door to door. We had no idea how to even clean a grill. We just started knocking on doors, pitching it to people. And within the first day, we had 5 sales. And then from there, we kind of went back to the drawing board, figured out how to actually clean a grill. Sure. And then, the initial kind of reaction from the customers was like, this is exactly what they wanted, they needed, they really appreciated the service. And so we just continue to build it from there.
Yeah, no, I love that. Makes sense. Why would you not keep doing it if you get 5 sales on the first day, right?
Validation right from the start. And then we kind of took that momentum. We continue to do selling door to door, continue to figure out the service, improve it, increase our pricing, develop a better offer. And then like 9 years down the line, we have a franchise system, and we're growing like crazy across Canada and moving into the US. So
that's exciting. And I know at one point you were on Dragon's Den, which for American watchers, listeners, Canadian's version of the Shark Tank show. What's that experience like, right? Like, I think they just get such a broad view of so many different types of companies. Like, what was it like for you? How was that experience? How did that help grow your brand just from exposure? Anything like that?
It was a really cool experience. I mean, I grew up watching the show, like ever since I was like 10 years old. So being on it was just like a whole different thing. And it was just such a cool opportunity. So actually what happened was like we were really early in our journey. Like we were only 3 years in. We only had about like $100,000 in revenue at the time. So we were like a really small business, and like we weren't even thinking of going on the show. But one of our customers was a producer for the show, and they just loved our service. They loved us. They loved our brand. And so they called us and they said, hey, we really want to have you guys out. And it was kind of just an opportunity like we couldn't pass up at the time, even though we knew we were kind of early. Anyways, we ended up getting on the show. We got a deal with Jim Treliving, who is the founder of Boston Pizza, big Canadian restaurant franchise. And it honestly just did, like, the exposure alone did wonders for our business. We were like kind of everyone on the university, like college campus, was like wanting to be a part of our startup. Like they wanted to, join our team, and then we had tons of people lining up to be customers. So the exposure alone had like huge impacts. We didn't end up going through with the deal after the show. Kind of what happened was we thought we would have a lot more access directly to Jim. because like as a young entrepreneurs, we were looking for more of kind of
mentorship,
exactly, mentorship, that sort of thing. But we were very naive. We thought like we'd have his phone number, be able to call him up and stuff like that. But what actually happens is like he has a team of people who run all of his investments, and you kind of work with them. So we moved away from it after that, but the exposure alone just did wonders for our business.
Yeah. Any like lessons learned there and how to like leverage media, to continue to grow your business? Have you ran any more experiments kind of along those lines as you've continued to grow?
Yeah, no, we definitely leveraged it. Like we did like a launch party. We invited like a bunch of our customers, friends, stuff like that. So we leveraged it so much. We reached out to a bunch of news outlets when we were on the show as well, and like leveraged that to get more exposure. And so we learned a lot just about like how to leverage free PR, free publicity, like through being on the show and getting even more out of it. And that's something we've kind of continued to do in the business. Get on like local TV, local news press releases and stuff like that. And that was really like the start of it was Dragon's Den, and we've done a ton of it since then.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, free press is fantastic, right? And then it's just like what I think something I've learned over the years too along the same lines is like you can make it as big as you want. I think sometimes people like forget that when they're building a company, and it's like it's up to you. Throw a fucking party, like get as many people as you can involved and like interested. Like that just makes it even bigger, right?
In our university, like they put us all over like all the TVs on campus and stuff like that. Like we were in like the school newspaper, so like it was like huge on campus. And honestly, that was probably bigger than the amount of customers that we had because we had like endless supply of employees. And like one of the biggest struggles in growing a home service business is like finding good talent, and that was just not a problem for us for like the next 5 years and so on. Like we had so many people who wanted to be a part of the business. So that was almost like the biggest outcome that we had from being on the show.
That's interesting. Would you consider some type of like college grad to franchisee program? Like given how much a success it's kind of led for you, have you guys looked into that or tried to play with that at all?
Not really. It's like we did actually test out like the college pro kind of model where you have like student franchises. But that just wasn't the right model for us. We wanted like more of a full-time franchise opportunity where we have experienced business professionals coming in, buying a full-time business. So we moved away from that. We do have like some younger people in our system though, like people who came in, were employees in our business, became managers, and then bought a franchise. We actually have two people who did that. Awesome. And that was all like, that's been so cool to like help them come true of being an entrepreneur and starting to actually like work with them on growing their business. So that's super cool. So we do stuff like that, but yeah.
Also a pretty legitimate case study for you guys, I would imagine, if somebody loves the brand enough to work for it and then to buy into it, right?
Yeah, ultimate validation when they know everything about the business and they're like, let's go. Like, I want to be a part of this in a bigger way. So that's been super awesome. We've had 2 that we've moved forward with, a couple more that like have wanted to, but didn't work out because of like funding and different reasons. Sure. But that's like an open pipeline for us as well, is because we run a pretty large corporate operation. So a lot of our like kind of younger guys who work in corporate, move up into higher up managed positions, have the opportunity to buy into a franchise. And that's been a great way to build the business.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you guys rebranded, right, from Canadian BBQ Boys to Grill Hero. Would love to dive into that because I think, there's obviously a lot of risk with that where you've spent all this time, effort, resources to kind of get that name known and then transitioning it over. Like maybe walk through kind of navigating those initial challenges and kind of what led to that rebrand in the first place.
So, I think it's pretty self-explanatory around the Canadian BBQ Boys name and how it wouldn't do super well in the U.S.
Sure, yeah, it's slightly limiting once you go to the rest of North America.
Exactly. So we had just a bigger vision for the brand, right? Like we want to build a huge franchise system, 200 locations across Canada and the United States. And so we knew we had to rebrand, like it was going to be a big part of it. We also felt that like Canadian BBQ Boys was really, it wasn't as professional as it needed to be really be the brand name in the service. And Grill Hero did exactly what we needed it to do. It just professionalized the brand. It turned us into like a more serious business. And it also allowed us to expand from Canada and to the US with the exact same brand name. And that was a big focus of ours. In terms of the challenges, yeah, it's tough. Like Canadian BBQ Boys was our name. It was everything to us for like 6 years, 7 years. And we built that brand from the ground up. But it was just like a really nice actually transition that we did because we transitioned over the course of 2 years. So it wasn't just like we woke up one morning and we're like, hey, everyone, we're Grill Hero now. We actually took a very slow, methodical approach to get everyone involved in the brand, So all of our employees were all on point with it. Our customers knew about it. Like we co-branded our uniforms, co-branded the website, co-branded social media. We sent a ton of email blasts over the course of 2 years, getting everyone ready for the big launch. And then when we finally decided to do the full transition over, we didn't think it was going to be like everyone knew exactly what was happening. And that was like a big priority for us. We want to make sure, we don't lose any of our brand value. We can properly transition it over. And I think we definitely just did it the right way. And it's actually helped grow our business significantly since the rebrand happened.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you guys did that, was that process all internal, or did you engage any like third-party external agencies as you guys were thinking through this? What did kind of the internal decision-making look like?
We did everything internally. I mean, I have a marketing degree from the university.
There you go. You used something from college. There you go.
So I have a little background in it. I'm definitely not like an expert marketer by any stretch. We do actually have like a fractional marketing director that we've brought on recently who's more expertise and helps on the franchise side and providing that additional expertise. But at the time, it was really just us kind of figuring it out, and I think we did it the right way. And couldn't be more happy with the rebrand. We've got a lot of good feedback from customers, from employees, from franchise partners about how much better Grill Hero is than Canadian BBQ Boys.
No, I love it. I think it seems like it does everything you wanted it to do, right? And like to your point, it's like it feels like I, as a random American person, could buy into a Grill Hero franchise because I have no connection to Canadian BBQ Boys at all. So I think it makes sense, right? Like it just opens the market for you pretty well.
We also found out that Americans like to call it grills, where in Canada it's like we call them barbecues. So we're like, with our new name, we can leverage that a lot more. We're changing our lingo with it as well. So
yeah, that's cool. Did you have names that you almost went with but did not go with? I'm always curious by the ones that don't make it.
Well, really the only other option was like BBQ Boys USA.
Okay.
And so we like bought that domain and we were going to do like Canadian BBQ Boys USA. But the more we thought about it, it's like we don't want to run two different brands across Canada and the US. Like we want it to be cohesive across both. And so that was kind of not in contention for too long.
Yeah. I mean, twice the creative, twice the copy. It catches up to you real quick.
We're at the call center trying to answer the phone differently. Like creates way too much complexity.
Do you guys route everything into national and then push it out to franchisees? Is that how you guys handle kind of customer service like that?
A centralized call center for all the franchisees where we do all of the customer inquiries and we actually schedule jobs right into the franchisees' calendars. So that's a huge value out of our system. Is our call center, and so we handle customer support and actually booking of customers. So we're not even routing a lot of stuff directly to franchisees; we're handling it for them completely. Nice. And then on their end, they're kind of doing more like outreach, building their customers base, reaching out to their current customers for rebookings and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Outside of, just the name, obviously the big forum front, everybody sees it. Were there other changes to the brand as you guys went to move, internationally, expand to the United States, values changes or the way you talked about things? What else kind of changed within the brand outside of just the name?
That's a good question. I would say, because we just expanded into the US, we have a lot of things dialed in already. And so we didn't want to go into the US before we were ready to do that. So we have our hero values already defined. We have so many things already built out that are really just plug and play from Canada into the US. The only big changes are spelling and holidays are different.
Sure.
And so really small kind of things, but with the Grill Hero brand name being able to go across both borders, aside from legal requirements, registration, and all kind of boring administrative stuff, it's really really minor changes for us to build into the US markets.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Maybe walk me through, just some of that challenge, right? Marketing in two countries is a thing. There are massive cultural differences between the United States and Canada, as similar as they are and as close as they are. How do you guys think through that? How do you plan for that? Just trying to capture those cultural norms.
I would say the biggest thing is I didn't go into this thinking I could figure everything out on my own.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that we did is we brought on a very experienced professional executive that worked at a huge franchisor that operated in both Canada and the US. And so he has a ton of experience in all this stuff, and he's kind of helped us throughout the process of setting things up, and doing it the right way. And so leveraging kind of the experience of like someone like that, as well as other people we're bringing on. Like I mentioned, we have a fractional marketing director who worked at Shack Shine, and they're a US and Canada franchise. And so he's really helping us bridge the gap between the different markets and setting things up the right way for US expansion. But kind of like, I guess on like a more broad note, like we're kind of changing things up to be more like US first instead of our Canadian first approach. One of the biggest things that we're doing is we're changing and refining the way we talk about our services. So we've always been barbecue cleaning and repair, for example. And now we've changed it completely over to grill cleaning and repair, leveraging our Grill Hero name. It is a little foreign to Canadians, but like we're kind of championing that change and getting people to like talk more about like these are grills, they're barbecue grills, they're not barbecues. So that's kind of like a small thing that we're changing on like our creative, updating onto like our vehicle wraps and things like that. And then from kind of, I guess, like more of a local, like there's actually more similarities than there are differences, is what we found between the two markets, especially from like a marketing approach. Facebook ads work well in Canada. They also work well in the US.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Google ads, same thing. And the platforms are very, like they're the exact same, whether you're running them on either side of the border. One of the other things that we have done recently, we actually brought on an agency partner who has operations in both Canada and the US. So we've been handling all of our digital marketing internally. Like I've actually been running the ads myself. And I'm not an expert by any stream. So one of the major moves that we're doing going into next year is we brought on this agency partner who's going to be running the digital advertising for both Canadian and US franchises. So we're leveraging that expertise to really dominate in our local markets as well.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. I love that notion. I'm a big fan of that as well, where it's just like, I can't know everything and I probably will suck at most of things. So just find people that are really freaking good at what they do, right? Yeah, that gets you through. Maybe walk us through, what you focus on. You kind of mentioned this a little bit, like some of that language refinement. Like what values are you consistently trying to push across to your employees, your team, customers, that you think really differentiate Grill Hero just in your kind of, the marketing language you're using?
I mean, our core values are our hero values, and that's honesty, empathy, reliability, and openness. And so we apply those to our franchise partners coming in. We want to make sure they fit well with our core values. With our employees, we want to make sure that they're constantly, showcasing those values, and we display that throughout our marketing as well. So like when it comes to honesty, like it's making sure we're honest and authentic when we're having relationships with our franchise partners, when we're in conversations, when we're working together on growing the business. It's also on the customer side, making sure, when we're quoting people, we're quoting them properly. We're giving them the full picture. We're not changing things on them at the last minute. We're living up to the promises, the things that we're doing. When it comes to empathy, it's like understanding people's situations, being there when people go through hardship, either if it's a customer, if it's an employee, or if it's a franchise partner. Reliability is like, we say we're going to come at this time. We're showing up on that time. And then on the franchise side, it's like you're setting your targets at this level. You're actually going to be, putting your plan in place and taking the actions that you say you're going to. And our role as a franchisor, holding them accountable to that. And then openness is like openness to change, openness to innovation, openness to be coached. So a big part of our value is like we're constantly improving, we're constantly updating, and we're constantly like leveling up internally and externally. Like, so our marketing is leveling up, our systems are leveling up. We're making changes to our team. We're bringing in more experienced professionals. And so one of our biggest, I would say like our biggest value is constantly being open to that change and having everyone take part in it. And so those are kind of like our internal values, but we also display them outwards towards our customers.
Yeah. I feel like openness makes a ton of sense. Like, especially like everybody knows you're a young CEO, right? Like you started this in college. It's a part of kind of the core story. But I think with that, your point of like, just acknowledge it, acknowledge where you're at, acknowledge like, hey, we're grinding every day to like get this thing better. Like, I think that makes a ton of sense. Do you transfer that to like, is there a lot of data visibility amongst franchisees, and kind of what does that look like where, you're kind of objectively showing that change and improvement?
Yeah, we're actually in the process of, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with EOS.
Yeah.
So we're actually in the process right now of bringing all of our systems onto EOS, and a part of that is like our scorecards. So one of the things we've had as a really important part is like we use a field service management software that has like tons of reporting and like almost way too much data.
Sure.
And so right now, one of the major projects we're working on is like refining that data into really dialed in scorecards where you can look at the scorecard and really see the health of your individual franchise against all the other franchise and corporate locations. So that's like a big project we're working on right now. And then we have a ton of other like internal scorecards that we'll share throughout the organization as well. So everyone can see exactly like what's happening, where things are at.
Yeah, I love that strategy. I think everybody should do it like that. There's a franchise brand called Caring Transitions down here. I'm friends with their VP of marketing. They've got like 350 locations or something, like growing fast and big. And they do the same thing where they've kind of got bands for like every topic, right? And so if you're looking at like paid advertising, like this is what it looks like to be excellent, great, good. And then they've got like recommendations for activities for like how do you level up from here to here to here to here. And I think that scorecard system is just such a great way to get that data out there in the first place. I mean, it's just fascinating.
We're excited for that. And one thing we also do have is like each franchisee has like a very detailed business plan spreadsheet that like outlines all their targets, all their numbers, and it's all based on like benchmarks and like other experience like locations that are similar to them. And so that's another thing that we do is like we have bi-weekly calls with our franchisees and we look at their performance and kind of, look at how you're doing towards your targets. And then we coach them to hit and exceed those targets.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. You've touched on a lot of forms of marketing kind of in this conversation, right? Like door-to-door, pay-per-click, media, PR type stuff. What strategies have been most effective for you as you guys have continued to grow this brand? And maybe which areas have you been surprised by, that have outperformed what you thought they would?
When we started out, we were like all in on like the neighborhood local marketing approach. Door-to-door, going to home shows, like grinding through that. And then through COVID, like we got really comfortable with digital. Like we mastered digital. We did digital super well. And we almost like took our foot off the gas on like the local stuff because we're like, oh, Facebook ads work so well and Google ads work so well. And what we realized is like it's such a limiting way to market by just focusing too heavily on digital. So what we've done over the last 2 years is combine the two approaches that we know work really, really well. So we have our local marketing that we go all out on. We focus on that first. And that includes like neighborhood canvassing, joining a local B&I group, being involved in the community, going to home shows, just doing a lot of that local stuff. So like everyone in your community knows who you are, what you do. And if they need their barbecue or their grill clean, they're calling you. And then we also do the digital very well. So then we combine those two and it creates an amazing effect. And I think most home service businesses like either kind of do one or the other. And really the magic happens when you do both extremely well. Because they really like leverage each other and you get, a lot of impressions on the ground in person and then they see your Facebook ad and then they're converting at a much higher rate. So I would say our biggest thing that we do is doing all of that very well and coaching our franchisees and helping to hold them accountable to their targets on the local marketing side.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like the foot traffic is just so like it's in the face and obvious, right? It's like you can see 1,000 Facebook ads in a day, but if I show up to your door with a shirt on that's branded, like you're going to remember that more, right? The next time you come across that ad. So it just adds like, I think it's like 12 touch points consumers need to make a buying decision these days. And it's like, you should hit some of those in person. Like I think, even us, like we're a straight up software company. Like we've got a massive 2025 plan based all around like showing up in more places, right? And it's like, it just works better. You just meet people and have better conversations,
It's getting more and more important. Like there's so much noise on social media. There's so much stuff happening that it's like people are kind of starting to tune it out to an extent. So I think the better you can do in person, the better your business is going to grow. And people have gotten a bit lazy, I think, to be completely honest, with like, oh, turn on the digital ads, sit back and watch the revenue go up. And it's like, that's not how you grow a business successfully. You got to do both. You got to get out there. You got to be hungry.
It's also a quick money pit because Facebook algorithms can work for you and against you overnight.
Exactly.
A question I always love to ask people, and yours is actually way more interesting because you probably actually started your brand like this. You've got $1,000. How would you spend that to grow Grill Hero?
If I had $1,000, I definitely wouldn't put any of it into digital. I would probably look and find a relatively cheap or free opportunity to go to like a home show or a local event where I could set up a booth and get some foot traffic there. And then I would get some business cards and some flyers and go door-to-door canvassing. And, just leveraging – when you have $1,000, you have to leverage your time, not your resources. And so I think that's the biggest thing is you got to get out there, you got to be hungry, and you got to do the things that are, really cheap and inexpensive.
Yeah, no, makes a ton of sense. I was hoping you would say that because I was like, that's got to be what you thought of when you first started. Because I imagine you in college, like looking at $500 in your bank account, like, what the hell do I do now? Yeah.
So we did so many scrappy things, like to get into like local newspapers and to like, it was always like, how do we get here? How do we do this event for free? Like you reach out to the organizers, or I don't know if you guys have Rib Fest down in the U.S.
Rib Fest? No, but I mean, we clearly should just on the name alone.
It's like a big barbecue kind of event that we have in different communities. Like we would just show up there like in uniform, for example. Like we wouldn't buy a booth or anything. We show up in full uniform. We've even like done it with like red wigs on in the past, and like we're just handing out business cards, and it costs us $0, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of scrappy, like kind of guerrilla type marketing stuff you have to do when you have limited budget, and it's how we started and grew the business originally.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, on that thought, do you guys do like B2B sales? Are you like selling into barbecue restaurants, where their cleaning needs are probably higher given the quantity of barbecue they're pushing?
Yeah, so I mean, our biggest segment of kind of commercial customers are mostly like property managers.
Makes sense.
So managers that they manage like big condo buildings, and they have community barbecues and stuff like that. We also do like a bunch of like golf courses, yacht clubs. We do businesses as well that have barbecues. And we've done some restaurants and stuff like that in the past as well. And it's something we're kind of dabbling in and figuring out. It's a little bit of a different process.
Yeah.
But the commercial side of our business is just continuously growing. Like we started out as just residential, and like we continue each year, we're really building our commercial side of the business. And it's a big focus of ours. One of the big commercial style things we do as well is like partnerships with like barbecue grill retailers. Yeah. So like the stores that actually sell the barbecues. We create like partnerships with them to sell our services through their stores and to their customers.
Are you guys selling that as like a subscription service where it's like, hey, sign up for your like barbecue maintenance plan or something like that? Like, what does that relationship look like? Because I mean, that makes a ton of sense to me. Like, them and manufacturers have to be just these massive markets for you guys, right? Where it's like you don't even have to do the selling; you've got everybody else selling for you.
So in the past, it's really just been like we would set up like a custom landing page for them, give them a small like kickback and some other incentives, and they would just like send us leads essentially, and then we would just book them through our original kind of our call center, that sort of thing. What we're working on them now is like we have recently launched a membership program. And so it's like our subscription type service where people can get yearly services, but like, twice per year, 4 times a year. And just have it as like a recurring kind of, maintenance package that they don't have to worry about. It's completely hands off. And we just show up and clean their grills when they need it. And so we are working on developing those partnerships now to sell some of that subscription in their stores. Also looking at different options to sell it with new barbecue sales. So if you buy like a brand new, really nice premium grill, you get a free amount of service like with the grill purchase. So different ideas like that we're talking about and in discussions with the different retailers. And we're hoping to also move that into the manufacturer as we grow and we have more national scale. We'll have more kind of leveraging power to develop these different partnerships and programs with which larger retailers and the larger manufacturers.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I think that's such an obvious path. A CEO question. Are you actively trying to sell those manufacturers, and then you're like in the back of your mind, F it, we'll figure it out. We'll find the 20 people in 20 cities to scale to match what they need? Or are you a little more patient, a little more, waiting for the relationship to develop as you build the team?
I guess a mix between the both. Like we haven't gone full out in that yet to really develop it, but we're gonna do it this year. Before we're like fully national. But I think as long as we can show like, hey, we're all in all these different areas. We're not just like in Ontario. We actually have a location in BC now, and we're across Canada, and now we're growing into the US. Like once I can sell that we are growing, we will be international across both Canada and the US. I feel more confident pitching that. But when we were just like more local, it was like it's a little bit of a hard sell, right?
Yeah. No, I love it though. That's what makes building companies fun. Is you just get to go have conversations you have no means to be in, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Interesting. And so something, maybe a personal question. I think like there is a big difference between the company you were running 7 years ago or 9 years ago and the company you have today, right? Like, and I imagine with that came just a ton of personal growth for you. Like, how do you kind of, what's your mentality towards that, right? In the sense that it is hard sometimes to admit, like, I'm really bad at this. I need people to do this, or like, should I have no idea what this is? And where do you see that going over the next 9 years? Like, where do you hope to be as you're building Grill Hero?
Great question. And I think the biggest thing is like just looking inward and saying like, I need to be living these core values more than anyone else in the organization and leading by example. So when I say openness, it's like I've been open to learn and grow and change as much as I possibly can. Because like knocking on doors and selling a service in a local community is much different than growing an international franchise. And it's been like so much to learn and develop and figure out. I think one of the best things I did was hiring experienced professionals to not only like show us what to do, but actually like coach us and teach us and help develop my business acumen so I could actually, be a good founder and grow internationally properly and responsibly. And one of the biggest things is just bringing on the right people and learning from the right people. I'm a part of EO. I'm not sure if you're familiar, like entrepreneur organization. So I have like a forum group with I'm the youngest person in the chapter. So it's pretty cool. But in my forum group, there's people who run $50 million businesses, massive organizations. And, just learning from people like that and networking with different experienced entrepreneurs has been a big focus of mine. And then, like I mentioned, bringing in the right people. I'm in the process right now of bringing on a really experienced COO who has 27 years of experience in franchising and retail and different industries. And has worked at massively large corporations. And so even just the last couple of months working with him, I've learned so much. And he's helped develop, not just me, but also the other people on our team to just, upskill us and improve our business acumen. And he's helping us, transition into EOS and do all these great things with the organization. And so, I think it's just living that core value of openness and constantly be learning. I read a ton as well. I'm always reading books. I'm always consuming content. I'm always trying to learn as much as I can. So, focus on that.
Yeah, I love that. So actually what stemmed to our conversation was that Mark Amory episode. I'm assuming there's a tight community of franchising in Canada. I think his life strategy, really, he's figured out how to do a service brand, right? And now he's kind of repeated that over time. Do you see a similar future for you, where you've learned how to execute in this way? Is there another, maybe it's a niche within home services or something tangential to what you're doing now that you think you would build a next brand in?
I have a ton of respect for Mark, and he built Gorilla Property Services, and now he's Puddle Pools. And it's funny because we kind of started franchising at the same time with him doing Puddle and us doing Grill Hero. And the franchise advisor I talked about, we actually both share him. Okay. So he helps Paul. He helps both of us. And I just look at how easy he makes it look with Puddle. He's just building tons of franchise. I think he's sold 20 in a year. And we're just figuring it out, right? So it's so funny to see if you have the experience, you know exactly what you're doing. He has the playbook nailed, and he's just doing it all himself, and he's just crushing it. So I think there's a ton of value in once you've done it, once you have all that experience, yes, you can build another brand. I see really focusing on this one. I think we have a huge opportunity to really be that first mover advantage, really grow in our niche service and be the brand name for it. Similar to what 1-800 Got Junk did in the junk space. We want to do the same thing with Grill Hero, really be a household name for grill cleaning and repair services. And so I don't even want to think about another brand until we've nailed that. And that'll probably take 10 years. And then maybe 10 years in the future, we go and we acquire another brand with a very similar customer base. Maybe it's pool services. Maybe it's, different types of services that we know our customer will also need. And then we build our the different services through that. But I don't know if I'd ever start another one from scratch. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's so difficult. So in my future, the only way I think I would ever do it is acquire someone who already has 20 franchises. They've already nailed the model. They have a good system and they're looking for an exit. And then you take it and you grow it to 100 kind of thing. But again, that's going to be way down the road. I got a lot more to figure out before that.
Hear me out. Backyard brands, right? It's grass cutting, tree trimming, pool services, barbecue, dog waste. I think that's the future. You can just go buy Puddle. We'll just call Mark up. We'll let him know.
Open to it. We'll see though. I gotta start. We gotta some cash reserves before we. He's growing too fast for us. I don't know if we'll be able to catch up.
No, I love that. Last section here, I always like to do just kind of a quick hitting question, 15-second Rorschach style, first thought that comes to your mind. Which franchise brands kind of inspire you? Do you look up to?
Brian Scudamore and 1-800 Got Junk, Shack Shine, Wow One Day Painting. I've read like all of his books. I've had conversations with him. Like given me his time, and what he's built there is exactly what we're trying to replicate in our business.
Yeah, I love that. Most influential book you've read in 2024?
Probably traction. Like learning about EOS and starting to implement that into our business. Like we're just like early on in that process, and it's already exposed like so many opportunities to improve. And just like our communications improved, like so many things that it's helping us with. So I would say that book is been the biggest one for me.
What is your favorite food that comes off a grill? Steak. Okay. Like you can't complain with a good steak, right? It's always good there. A piece of advice you'd give a college-age person that wants to be you in 8 years?
It started before you think you should. Just get out, start knocking on doors before you even know how to clean a grill. Yeah. Like I think that's people are held back because they want to do their business plan. They want to figure this out first. There's all these barriers they put in their own way, and it's like, you want to try something, just go try it.
Yeah. Big fan of that myself. Last one. What's something people would be surprised to know about you?
Favorite activity is going into the backcountry, like doing backcountry camping. Yeah. So we go on like long treks through the wilderness with like no cell service. And like one of my favorite hobbies is backcountry camping in the middle of nowhere.
See, I'm a fan of camping in the U.S., but we have a lot less brown bears than you guys have up there in Canada.
Yeah, I'm in BC as well, and like we do a lot of our camping in like the Rocky Mountains. Yeah.
It's a real thing. Yeah, don't get eaten by bears. That's the key to the next 10 years of Grill Heroes. You don't get eaten by a bear on a trek.
Yeah, I got to get that in my life insurance policy in case eaten by a bear. This is what happens.
Put it in the key man insurance for the business as well. That way everybody's taken care of. Beautiful. Well, Michael, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for, sharing your journey and then really just diving in deeper into kind of the tactical aspects of building your brand over time. Like super interesting stuff. Always like to give kind of a half minute at the end. Like you're on a podium, sell what you want to sell. You've got a platform to do it.
We're open for business in the U.S. Like we are actively looking for franchise partners. We have a number of really good prospects that are pretty far in the process and will likely be signing on very, very soon. So we're super excited to have a handful of people starting in the U.S. By the end of this year, and then we're looking to grow. Like we're looking to skyrocket this. We have all the systems in place. We have an amazing team. We've built an amazing brand in Canada. And we're just bringing all that knowledge, experience, and branding all into the U.S. in 2025. And so if anyone's out there that wants to learn more about how they can be a part of this, how they can learn more about our franchise opportunity, go to grillhero.com, reach out to us. We'll set up a call with you. We'll teach you all about what we're doing and see if you're a good fit for our system, and see if it's a good fit for you as well.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Michael. Really appreciate your time today. Everybody else, thanks for listening or watching, and we hope you enjoyed this show and look forward to the next episode of Behind the Franchise.